Hello there and welcome to another edition of SportOn. My name is Bernard Ndong, and as always I'm joined by my co-pilot who's very excited that I'm back, Wakabi. I hope you have a gift for me because I can see the table is full with a lot of gifts. What do you have for me?
First of all, welcome back.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed your rest.
Yes.
And before this bug bites you and you're back again. We were okay, we were relatively okay, we found a way. Yes, I do have a gift for you, two of them. One, I lost a bet to you, which is really sad.
Yeah.
The Irish owe me big time. But more importantly, there's a rugby ball that is being used at the Rugby World Cup. It's here on the set. Hopefully, we can get that as a gift to you. I'm not too sure, but one can only hope. But welcome back.
Thank you. Of course, it's good to be back. Now, Wakabi, of course, there's been a lot of talking points in all of sports. I know we touched briefly on some of the things we're going to be talking about, and that is the Rugby World Cup. What a crazy 48 hours we've had in the past weekend. But before we focus on that, well, the national team, they were facing off against Russia. Wakabi, we almost beat the Russians. We were this close.
It was a good game. Disappointed with the goal we conceded in the last minute because I thought maybe we'll see this one out. But all in all, once you get over the disappointment of losing to a last-minute goal, it was not bad. It's a good result. It's as high an opposition as maybe you'd get given the circumstances. And it's certainly an improvement from Pakistan and Mauritius a few months ago. We played Pakistan, we played Mauritius, we've played Qatar, we've played Iran, we played South Sudan, we've played Russia. It's the kind of opposition we should maybe be measuring ourselves against to see how we can do. Are they the best team in Europe? No. Would we have maybe needed a bigger team? Yes. But key thing is, Coach Firat has no excuses. And that's been my overriding statement this whole week. He has no excuses. And
the interesting thing about, you've just given us an idea of the teams that they have faced off. But it's very staccato. Win one, lose. Win one, lose. We don't have consistent victories.
Yes, that actually might be the worrying bit. Because you beat Qatar, we think, yeah,
you lose to
South Sudan at home. And then you are like, okay, well, granted, South Sudan might feel like they are part Kenyan. You know, maybe. So maybe it's Kenya versus Kenya in a way. But then you play Russia today, which I thought was decent for most parts of the game. I thought Kenya played well. Some of our key players looked okay. Or Dada looked okay. I'm really happy to see Teddy Okumu in there. And then I don't know what happens next. So the key thing is, you've had conversations. The coach is working towards building a team for the World Cup qualifiers, building a team for the next AFCON qualifiers. My point remains, you play around with the team, play this one at right back, play this one at left back, change your goalkeeper, change your striker. But when the qualifiers start, there will be none of these stories of, oh, we don't have enough friendlies, we didn't get a time to look at the team. He's had all the time. So hopefully he's building onto something. Some of the things in that team are nice to see. Some of them maybe a bit worried. For example, a bit worried about Olunga. He hasn't looked himself.
As sharp.
Yeah, in quite a bit. Since the Qatar game, actually. He just hasn't looked as sharp. So you wonder what's going on there. And then, of course, you look at, do we have a right back that we really like? We know Anyembe couldn't join the team now. Of course, Nondi is a slight downgrade on Anyembe. So he's got a few questions to answer. But all in all, he's got to make this count. Friendlies are friendlies. You can lose one, win one, lose one. So long as when the actual games come, we see what the friendlies were for.
Okay.
Yes.
And remember, of course, Kenya will be competing in the World Cup qualifiers, 2026 World Cup qualifiers. Will be facing off against the Gambia, Burundi, the Seychelles. So, of course, that's coming up in November. And that particular fixture against the Russians was a build-up to those qualifiers. Now, let's move on to something you enjoy, obviously, Okabi, yes. And that is in athletics. But it's not those high-profile kind of races, but Kenyans dominated as usual. What else is new? Amsterdam Marathon.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I like the boy who won Bellet.
Yes.
Really good for him to win, given he dropped out in Budapest. Comes back and wins. Of course, he leaves you with a few questions. We never like those kind of situations. There was a lot of them in Tokyo 2021, where guys dropped out of the race and then a few weeks later, a few months later, they were out competing at the road races. So yeah. It gives you a bit of a question, but it's happy to see him win. Of course, the time was 2:04 something.
2:04:18.
2:04:18. Unfortunately, because of Kevin Kiptum now, we don't no longer see 2:04 as something great. We are like,
it's okay.
Yeah, but still, he's a young man. I think it's his first major win. Hopefully he can build on it, because the key thing is to build on it. We we've got Eliud, we've got Kiptum, we've got Evans Chebet, we've got Benson Kipruto. It's good to see Generation Next starting to get ready. It wasn't a bad race, but it's not those races that set our pulses racing. I wasn't glued to the TV making sure who's winning, who's not winning.
But at least it was a 1-2-3 Kenyan finish. Cyprian Kotut was second, and he was followed by Bethwell Chumba. At least that's decent. It's been a while since we've seen Kenyans finishing 1-2-3 in the marathon.
It's Amsterdam, man. No offense to Amsterdam. But it's Amsterdam.
Okay.
We are supposed to dominate Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Milan, the one in Prague. We are supposed to dominate those ones. They are good stepping stones. Now, hopefully, we can see you in Amsterdam, and then we see you next year, maybe somewhere further up, maybe in Tokyo, maybe somewhere. So no offense to that. They are good races, but they are not the kind of things that makes this country stop. We are spoiled as a nation.
Yes.
When you tell us we want to go like, what race was it? Is it Chicago? Yes. Is it London? Yes. Yeah. Is it Boston? Yes. Is it Berlin? Yes. Once you start going to Valencia, we start to say, So same thing with Amsterdam, but take nothing away from the young man. I'm happy for him. I hope he can build on it.
Absolutely.
Because the key thing is progression. What we've been asking to see throughout our athletes, hopefully we can see his progression going on.
Right, and there's a bit of progression when it comes to this next sporting discipline, and that is rugby, and specifically the abridged version of the game. We're talking about Rugby Sevens Wakabi. We were hoping to have Control C, Control V in Monastir in Tunisia.
Yes.
The Kenya women's team, the Lionesses, competing against South Africa. Everyone knew the final was going to be the two teams, but tough loss.
No, close. It was close, 12-7. Some people saying, oh, maybe if you had if you had the rub of the green, you could probably have even won it because Kenya was leading at some point. But all in all, it's the progression these girls have made in the last few years. When you think about it, you spoke about it on Saturday when you said in 2016, they sort of got a bye into Rio Olympics. But then this time they are so close. I know the repechage is much harder.
Very hard.
It's much harder because now you play teams from the other parts of the world. But I think it's a case of building, and it's a case of continuing the revival of Kenya rugby, because Kenyan rugby went through a patch where we are not sure what was going on. Between 2021 and May this year, Kenyan rugby just went. So it's good to see the vibe. So close, so close yet so far, but at least 12-7, that gap is really closed. Okay. By the time it's one of the next Olympics in LA. By the time it's in LA, and Mwanja continues doing his job, or whoever succeeds him, because this is all the way from Bling coming up. Hopefully we'll have closed it even. But it's good. I'm just happy that there's positivity in Kenyan rugby. Like, we are seeing good results. We are seeing good things happening. The vibe is coming back. Safari Sevens is coming back. So maybe Mr. Sasha is on the right path.
Absolutely. Now, let's stay with the oval ball, but now we move on to the World Cup that's, of course, ongoing in France. And specifically, the crazy weekend we've had, Wakabi. We start with the game between South Africa and the French, the hosts. What a game.
I am so happy. Fantastic game. And I'm going to quote Coach Geoffrey Kimani, who tweeted and said, this looks like, this is a 15th game being played at 7's speed and intensity. That game was end-to-end all the way from... Normally, there'll be a bit of a slog, but not so this World Cup, this particular, and that particular game was fantastic. Whichever way you looked at it, the intensity, the fight back, the way the South Africans were able to hold out when they were down to 14 men, and the discipline at the end. Just the discipline to make sure we shall not make a mistake. We shall not consider penalty. We are going to go into those racks, and we are going to make sure nothing goes wrong. The substitutes were excellent. Every time they bring in the
squad.
Yes, the bomb squad comes in is excellent. And remember, and I told you this, and I don't know much rugby, disclaimer, but I told you, Andre Pollard is going to be the main guy for them. He may not start the game. Libbok will start their games, but from the 60th minute, they bring in the bomb squad and they bring in a guy who can kick. That's all.
And that kick was very crucial, especially because...
They won it. Yeah. He converted the try.
And that penalty.
And then took the penalty. That's it. So they just need a guy who is not 100% fit. He can't play for the whole 80 minutes. But for the 20 minutes, they just need to create opportunities for him. Because even in the Irish game that they lost, they missed maybe, 11 points from kickable positions. So Andre Pollard might be their joker, the guy who he will not start. But so long as he comes on and then the bomb squad comes in, they steal your penalty here, your penalty there. The final, here we come.
He'll give you the points. Now, the other game that preceded that particular fixture was also something else. It was almost like a boxing match because it was Fiji against England. What was fascinating about that particular fixture is the fact that Fiji Wakabi, population of 900,000, England 55 million, but you could feel like the entire world was supporting the Fijians against the English.
Yes, the English don't have many many fans, many supporters, purely because a lot of the times they're in our faces. They are the best in everything. They invented rugby, then they invented football.
Invented cricket.
Yeah, they are the main guys, and they are always saying we can do this, we can. So for some reason, that tends to rub people off the wrong way. And then the Fijians have a wonderful story behind them, like you said, a country of less than 1 million people, all those sad stories in the team. Someone lost his son, someone lost his dad, and then they are back. Their style, though, is really, I think they are the most entertaining team to watch. And I don't know much rugby, but I enjoy them the most. The way they move, the way they move the ball,
flair.
And the spirit that they had yesterday. When they were down, they looked down and out, but then they just came back. Those 2 tries, you're like, whoa, what's going on? It's only that I think they are so emotional. They always have a mistake in them. They always will give you a chance, and they gave England that chance. And on the other hand, though, when all is said about England, this is the team that was written off. The English team, not many thought they would get here, given the kind of year they've had, given their fight with Eddie Jones, him leaving, the new coach taking over, and everyone saying,
some
are
would
you
say
sure?
losing Eddie Jones was a good thing because he went to this other side of Australia.
Yeah, but there's something wrong about Australia, by the way. When we have time, we should actually look at it. There's something not right about Australia. Have you seen their cricket team? There's something not going right about Australia. But yes, it was a really good game. So unfortunate for Fiji, but you almost always felt the English should have just that little bit extra. Just that extra to beat them.
Right, now, staying with the Rugby World Cup, the question we're asking you is very, very simple. We're asking you in regards to the Rugby World Cup. Who will win the Rugby World Cup? Send in your responses to X, @Bernard Ndong, @JWakabi. James, J Wakabi, is it James?
Yes, J Wakabi.
J Wakabi,
Yes,
because
J
there's
Wakabi.
a parody account, I think.
There is.
I wouldn't be
Why would
surprised.
anyone want a parody account?
But I need to
for me?
counter check. J Wakabi at NTV Kenya. And remember, the hashtag to use is SportOn. That will enable us to track your feedback. Now, speaking of the Rugby World Cup, Wakabi, you know, we are close to the World Cup in a very unique way.
Yes.
What do you have on the table?
You have the official rugby ball. It's the one Bongi was throwing in those lineouts
Yes.
with last night. And it's the one which the Irish really messed me up with.
So this is the official Rugby World Cup replica ball. And it's been brought into studio by a gentleman who was on the ground, Daudi Were. First of all, thank you so much for joining us on the show, SportOn. You were on the touchline,
Yes.
covering the Rugby World Cup. And just tell us, help us understand the atmosphere, because, and how many games did you go for?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's great to watch you guys on the dialogue here. Yes, I went for 4 games. And as you alluded earlier, you know, the good thing about this World Cup is in sports, usually we have lots of games, lots of tournaments that promise a lot. They promise a lot, but then just fail to deliver. Whereas this World Cup has not only delivered, but has exceeded our expectations, as we saw last weekend. Probably 4 of the best rugby matches ever in the history of rugby. And that's not, you know, being outlandish.
So, Daudi, the first question is, how do you get yourself to go to the Rugby World Cup? Why does a Kenyan who's a great photographer decide,
Yes.
I'm going to Paris, I'm going to the Rugby World Cup? How does that come about?
Well, yeah, first of all, like you said, there's a passion for the game. You know, you've been shooting rugby for a long time, you've been involved in the game. The Rugby World Cup is probably not going to be the first tournament that you attend as a photographer. So you need to build up your technical skills and then build up the body of work. Once you get that in place, then you can start the accreditation process. You know the people you have to reach out to. You can start looking at for clients for your work and basically gradually build up yourself to the point where you're a World Cup photographer.
But why? Why? Like, why? What's the drive? Are you going there to get pictures that you have a market for? Are you going there, like you said, for the exposure, for the experience? Sure. Are you going there as a fan? What's the drive? Like, when you start back, how long did you plan this? Since 2019,
yeah,
20?
Since the last World Cup.
Yeah, so for 4 years, what's the drive? What's making you decide of everything else? In 4 years' time, I'm in Paris.
Yes, so first of all, you have to have a long-term view and a long-term ambition about what you want to do with your project. Every World Cup game, you have 100 photographers around the pitch. So your pictures are probably not going to be very different from your colleagues on either side of you. So there has to be a bigger story. There has to be a bigger drive that gets you there. For me personally, I was looking at how is this World Cup organized? What are the operations around it? How is the media treated? How is the media operations? what will it take for us as Kenyan rugby, as Kenyan sports, to get to the level where we can be hosting and holding this level of competition regularly and constantly. So that was my long-term view. I'm also looking at different projects such as the experience of African or players of African descent, looking at the stories of players who are born in other countries but playing in different countries in the World Cup, and seeing how the dynamics around that. So there are very many stories that are inside the game, inside the pitch, that are probably not just reflected in the scoreline.
Daudi, the photos on the screen, actually, those are the photos that he took at the Rugby World Cup. You can see the quality, you can see the crispness. Help us understand how different it was, because you've covered different major sporting events. When you went into the stadium for your first game, how did it feel for you, and which game was it?
The first game I covered was South Africa, no, New Zealand versus Uruguay. That was the first game I covered. And you know, when you first of all, when you get into that World Cup bubble, when you're given your accreditation as official media, then you're given your photographer's bib.
The bib is actually here. This is it.
I thought you were going to start the show in it.
But I realized if I was to try and be... So here it is. So we'll have it on the screen just shortly.
You know, then
there we go. This is official Rugby World Cup bib, so that you know for sure we're not pulling your leg. He was there. Yes.
But what impacts you the most is just the professionalism, how the entire thing is handled, and the respect that you get, not only from your peers, but also the management and the organizers of the tournament. Then, of course, you start to feel the pressure, because you're seeing the best and biggest names in the game on the pitch, and the best and biggest names in photography sitting next to you on either side. And you know that you're here, you're with them, you're their colleague, so you have to be able to match what they're putting out.
So, like, when you're going to the pitch, like, what do you need to carry? Because I can see this is, I think, one of the tools that you used. So what must you have when you're in the pitch?
Yeah, so all of us have at least 2 cameras, 2 bodies with lenses of various sizes. You're assigned a seat. You'll find many of the cameras have internet connections, so we can plug straight into the camera, so that any pictures you're taking are being sent directly to your editors or the agencies that you're working for, or whichever organization that you're dealing with. So nothing is left to chance. Every seat is numbered, every position is given, and you just have to make sure that you have everything that you need to produce good work. So your job as a photographer is to make sure that you produce what's required.
Where did this bag of photography start? Where did this whole taking pictures start? And what's the connection with sports? Are you a guy who likes photography, then takes you to sports? Or are you a rugby buff who wanted to be as close to sports as possible, and then the camera became the path to being that close to the game?
Yeah, like most of us, I think, you know, we played rugby in school, played rugby in campus, so been involved in the game for a long time, been involved in many sports for a long time, you know, football, hockey, even a bit of cricket as well, nice. You know. But yeah, so and photography as well, to be fair, you know, always been passionate about photography, passionate about capturing those images. For me, with rugby, when I got to a point, as you can see, I'm wearing hearing aids, when I started to lose my hearing, and the doctors are saying, you know, it won't help if you keep bashing your head, so maybe find something else that you can do that will help you keep up with your passion for the sport. So photography was one of them, sports administration and IT of sports was the other part, the data of sports, which, as you guys were talking about earlier, is important, is another thing. But yes, photography is a place where I really feel at home when I'm on the pitch.
So are you self-taught? Did you have to go to school? I'm just trying to understand, because you said you were doing something else, and then now you picked this up as time went.
Yeah, I think we're all self-taught, and I mean, we're blessed in Kenya that there are so many good sport photographers that on whose shoulders we can stand on, from, you know, the great Moamin to, then you have Mohammed Amin in Nation, who's a good sport photographer. And then my peers, I mean, you had a ton of Kenyan sport photographers that were covering the World Athletics Championship and did amazing work there. You had Kenyan sport photographers with the Lionesses in Tunisia. And yeah, a big bunch of people. But yeah, we're all more or less self-taught. You can only learn so much through theory. You just have to go out on the sidelines and take photos and take photos and take photos. and that's how you get better at this.
What key thing did you learn from, you've said you learned a lot from your peers. What key thing that to date has really refined your skills that you felt like that was the key thing that helped me be a better photographer?
The more you learn about the game and the more you understand how the game is played, understand the personalities on the pitch, understand the coaches.
What do you mean by personalities?
The players on the pitch
Okay.
and how they play. You can begin to anticipate some of the things that they're going to do, which then makes your photos better.
Let's have a look at some of the photos and just give us an idea of, like, you're talking about the personality. So we'll have the photos from the Rugby World Cup. We've been showing them. Let's take a look at and see, like, this is rally. We'll move on to rally. We're talking about the rugby photos.
This is
Yeah, there we go, the rugby photos. So like this particular part.
Yeah, so this is the haka, the New Zealand challenge before every match. You can see, like in this photo, anticipating the pass. So then you know, okay, this is probably going to happen. This one anticipating the tackle and waiting for the moment just before impact, when both players are expecting impact. A player in the air just after releasing the ball.
So how it, because it happens in real time. I mean, imagine, is it, you take, because I'm poor in photography, because I know there's something in Wakabe, I think this is the shutter, I don't know. Because it's quick, it's fast.
Yes.
Yeah, so what you don't want to do is just keep
like
your
getting
finger
that one for the
constantly on
kick.
the shutter
It's
and
not
take
easy,
everything, yes. But you have to, there's a lot of anticipation about what's going to happen, and that just comes from experience. And that experience really doesn't come at the World Cup. It's sitting at Kenya Cup games, sitting at school games, sitting at campus games for years and years on end, where you're like, okay, this is how you get the key moments in which people will be interested to be seeing later.
So is photography your main thing? Is IT your main thing? Is administration your main thing? Which one is the main thing? Oh, they're all main.
My main thing is working and building tools that help us improve our communities and society.
Yes.
So sports, for example, is one of the most powerful avenues through which we can transform our countries, or even transform the world. Muhammad Ali is the greatest, not because of what he did in the ring only, but because how he was able to take the power of sport and use it to change the world, you know. You had the Black Power salute at the Olympics. There's Diego Drogba getting on his knees and begging his compatriots to stop the civil war in Cote d'Ivoire. Then, you know, when the whole country in Kenya were glued to watch, 159 happen. So sports, there's something about sports that brings about our identity. I heard you talking earlier about South Sudan and football and how they're so passionate. You know, because sports is one of the things that's working for them, that helps them bring out their identity as a new country. And it's very interesting, especially when you watch newer countries, how they're able to seize on sport as one of the key drivers for who they are and what their country means to them.
So everything all wrapped together.
It all wraps together, yes.
Now, based on that, because obviously you're taking photographs, what was the end medium? I'm just trying to understand, because you're taking all these amazing photos.
Yes.
What was the end medium in this particular case, like for the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, so again, the business of sports is a big thing, and photography is a product. So you're looking to find customers that will, clients that will buy your product in a way that makes sense for them. But remember, there are 100 of us around the pitch, all with the same photos, or all with similar photos. So then you start looking for these different angles. That's when we started looking at, okay, players of African descent, or players that were not born in the country that they're playing for, how they get into that, and basically developing stories around the images that help to share more about what makes this World Cup so special. You know, when you're talking about Fiji, England, the scoreline doesn't tell everything. What it means to the Fijians and what it means to the English those are the kind of small stories that make
those nuances.
Yes.
When you're taking pictures from, like, in the 4 games, do you have a moment, a wow moment? Do you have a moment where you felt overawed? Do you have a moment when you're starstruck?
Oh yeah, there are several of those moments, man.
Yes.
Well, I mean, a lot of the players have said how the French have embraced this tournament, and how, I mean, South Africa, Tonga, 60,000 fans. You know, New Zealand, Uruguay, again, 60,000 fans. matches where they don't really have a stake in the game, but they're there and they're in full voice and they're saying it. And then you talk to people who've been saving for 4 years to attend one match, you know. You talk to kids who this is their first time ever in a stadium and they live in those cities, you know. There are all these moments on and off the pitch that remind you just how important this is, not only for the players on the pitch and those of us who are covering the tournament, but really for the fans who have come to experience the World Cup for the first time, or maybe the fifth, sixth time.
Any one person you've taken you photographed and then you went like, oh yes, I'm not taking another one. I am done. You know the way, for example, I'll tell you this. Even in just in the local scene,
yes.
Dennis Oliech can do no wrong in my eyes. For example, it's just an example.
Yes.
So if you bring Dennis to me, I'm like, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay. The first time I met Kalusha Bwalia, I really couldn't speak.
Yes.
For example, just because of how I grew up seeing him. So I'm wondering whether you've had a moment like that.
Yes. So let me use, for example, the rugby example. You know, again, the temptation is to focus on the stars, the try scorers. But you know, you can play, especially those of us who are more of the bomb score type. You can play 80 games of a rugby match without touching the ball.
Yes.
You're just clearing out people, making space, protecting your teammates. And for me, those are the stars, you know. Those are the 7 or 8 players who don't get the kudos, but put in the graft that allow the stars to shine. That's why.
Where did you play rugby? When you played, what position?
What position?
Yes. Were you in those guys?
Yes. I
Prop,
was
hooker.
no, the prop. I wasn't full enough to be a hooker, but yes, front row union.
Front row union.
Proper rugby players.
So which player was it that when at the Rugby World Cup you were like, wow, I've met player X?
Okay, the Springboks captain, Siaya Klosi, for me it's one of those players who puts in a shift every game. And you know, meeting him and as the first black Springbok captain.
I really hope you took a photo with him.
No, I took photos of him. But then at that point, you're being professional.
Because you have rules. There are rules, yeah. You can't take with the stars, I think.
You can, but then you start balancing. Are you a fan or are you working? And that's that really becomes the big challenge.
Yes, you've got to decide. What are you? Are you a fan? Or are you here to work? So if you're here to work, then you've got to take the picture even though you're a bit starstruck. So you'll have a conversation. You'll interview the guy, for example, if you're me. But you'll be inside you, you're like, man, this is high leg.
Because I'll give you my own example. For example, when I was at the Africa Cup of Nations, I met Riyad Mahrez. Obviously, he was a star at that time for Manchester City. And I was going for the press conference, I think, for one of their games in Egypt. And I realized I'll never meet this player ever again. Yeah. So I met him just when he was outside. I had a colleague who was like, please, I know it's unprofessional, but I only choma. I broke the rules because I'll never see him again.
I did that earlier. And then at some point I had to, like Daudi says, pick a struggle. Right. Are you a journalist or are you a fan? So when you pick a journalist, whatever you're feeling, you feel inside. So like I said, Haile Gebrselassie, first time I met him, I could barely talk, but I found words. And I did my interview, even though inside I'm feeling, this is Haile Gebrselassie. Or first time, this is Kalusha Bwalia. And your heart is, but you compose yourself and you do the job.
Right. Now, of course, the question we're asking you on the show is related to the Rugby World Cup. We've had a crazy weekend in terms of the quarterfinals. Now we know the last for the 4 teams that will be battling out for the big one, and the semifinals, the 2 semifinals. So the question we're asking you, based on those 4 teams who are now going to be competing this Friday and Saturday in the semifinals, who will win the Rugby World Cup? Very simple question. Share your sentiments, and I believe we have some of them. Let's take a look at what you're saying regarding that question.
Yep. Derek Nurdin says New Zealand. Their part, I think, has just opened up, the fact that they're playing Argentina in the semi. And then you've got Liz Green, who says New Zealand all the way. And let's see if we have another one. New Zealand all the way. Magumba Alvin Chore says England. Team England, not too sure England will do it, but then they're in the semi. The
finalists last time.
Yeah. Alwala John says New Zealand. Now, you see the comments we are getting, Bernard? This is exactly why I don't support the All Blacks.
Why?
They don't need my support. We've had how many? 6?
Yeah.
4 of them are saying New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Starkid says England. Chore said England. That's why I don't support the All Blacks. They have enough support.
Daudi?
Enough support.
Springboks.
Springboks.
Springboks are definitely going to win this World Cup
Okay.
again.
That's my man.
And on that note, we take a break. Halftime on SportOn. We're back after this very short break.
Raised by secrets.
There's a lot going on at the moment in this house.
Their true identity is uncovered in the brand new unmissable Zari. Starts 23 October. Only on Maisha Magic Plus, channel 163 on DSTV Access, GoTV Plus, channel 3.
Straight to my savings, hopefully to get more so that I can invest it. So I think as a man, that's how most of us think. Kama ufikiri hivyo, kuna kashida mahali. My name is Kevin Miner. I'll see you on the 3rd edition of the Man Cave on 28th of October. I can't wait. It's a man's affair. So see you then.
To get It's Finished by Njoki Munyi, dial *812*801#.
Skiza, Nan Nation.
I'm not with you because of what you give me, Rodrigo. It's because I love you. Stop laughing.
How do you expect me not to laugh? Even you don't believe what you just said. Love never meant anything to you.
Why do you say that?
Because if you cared, you would have settled with Alberto. He's whatever you wish. And is truly one of the best human beings. Natalia, forgive me.
Why did you have to mention him?
It's just
the only thing that matters to you is the rivalry you have with your brother. Which one of you is better? I'm fed up with being the toy that you're fighting for.
Natalia, no.
Let
Please
go of
listen
me.
to me.
I said let go of me.
Head over heels.
I'm very excited to introduce Ushidi Gardens Nakuru. This property is developed by Optiven and we are doing compacted maram roads. We plant the trees, fence the property. So please call this number 0790 300 300. Optiven, we have you covered.
All holders are notified to report and surrender unclaimed financial assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, UFAA, on or before November 1st, 2023. Visit www.ufaa.go.ke and get started.
Right, welcome back. We've just concluded our water break. And we're back to the second half of SportOn. And on the show, we are privileged to have Daudi Were. He's a sports photojournalist, and he's back in the country from covering the Rugby World Cup, where he was privileged enough to be on the touchline to watch the action unfold. Daudi, it's interesting when I look at how your tools are. There's something I've noticed about professional photographers. They're very keen about how they place the camera, because the most sensitive part is which part?
Yeah, well, the most the most sensitive part is the photographer.
Yes.
The person behind the camera and behind the lens.
Yes.
And this is not where we started. We did not start with the big professional tools, you know.
Right.
For all of us, the first camera we picked up was a very small, very basic enthusiast cameras, but that doesn't stop you from making
Was it the ones for film that you had those?
Yeah, we used to do film. But then, luckily, it was at the advent of digital, and then being technologists as well, being interested in that, But yeah, the very first cameras we used were a lot more basic. And you see photographers on the pitch side now with very basic cameras but producing absolutely good images. It's all about being able to spot the story and then being able to have the technical skills, choose whatever you have in your hand. The best camera is always the camera you have with you. Whether it's a big professional camera or your phone.
That's a very interesting
Actually,
phrase.
when you're saying that, I had to read a quote by our colleague Chris Omolo. He's a photographer at the Nation Media Group, and he said that he said this quote, and I'll quote him word for word. He says, "It's not about the camera; it's about the guy, the mind, the brain behind the picture."
Yeah.
He says he can give you a Ferrari or a Range Rover, but if you lack the speed and the class, respectively, you won't be able to achieve anything if you don't have. There's something that you must have over and above the tools that you have.
That's right. Yes, especially today when you see the power of videos. Seems to be becoming more and more bigger, seems to be taking over everything. So people, why bother with photos? When you think of iconic sport photography, iconic sport photos, they can't get out of your mind. Muhammad Ali standing over Joe Frazier, that picture. It's true. The black power fists,
Juan Carlos.
you know,
Juan Carlos, yeah.
You know, Bolt and his 9.57, he broke the world record.
There's another one that was trending online over Kenya, and I think was it the junior championships? He was standing and then everyone else was...
It was Nixon Chepseba.
Yes.
It was
Nixon
at the end of a heat, a 1500-meter heat. And actually, in the real sense, he actually had bombed out of that heat.
Yeah.
But the picture told this completely different story that became a meme forever, of him sort of walking over.
Yes.
Like he was walking over his competitor, so to speak.
Yes. So there's still a space for photography. Even as the world moves towards video and more richer media, there's still a space for capturing a moment for people to be able to see for prosperity.
How young were you when you first picked up a lens?
I mean, we were teenagers, but we weren't really shooting sports then. We were shooting whatever we could get, you know. Trying to be cool presenters like you guys back then.
Bernard is cool, I'm not sure about myself.
But sports, I think, from around 20, so maybe 25 years ago, when we started, you know, let's start taking pictures of sports, let's start documenting some of these things that we're seeing. And some of those pictures now are very valuable because many times you're the only person there. And some of those stories now are, they feel almost like ancient history, but you're the only people there, you know?
What's the oldest picture you have that is, say value is the wrong word, but that is valuable? Like the oldest picture, then you go back and you go like, oh yes, that picture today is priceless.
Oh man, that's a tough one. My oldest valuable picture. You know, there are many pictures of the current rugby stars now, you know, the Kenyan rugby stars, the Collins Injera, the Andrew Mondes, when they were first starting out, when they were playing schoolboy rugby or their first Kenya Cup games, and you go back and you look at those photos and you're like, wow, you know, you've been able to track this guy's career. Then there are famous victories, for example, when Kenya Harlequins pulled off probably the best comeback in Kenyan rugby to beat KCB. And I know capturing those images then, you know, in that moment, it may not have felt, you knew it was something special, but now, decades later, when you're looking back, you're like, those were some special images. I remember when, in 2009, when the Rugby World, JWRT, Junior World Rugby Trophy, came to Nairobi for the first time, and you know, the chairman of IRB, as it was called, the International Rugby Board, playing rugby in Kibera. You're like, okay, these are special images. They tell a story beyond just what happened on the pitch in this tournament.
You obviously don't only cover rugby because, yes, of course, that's your first love, understandably.
Yes.
Tell us about how it is covering other different sports. How do you need to adapt? Because shortly we'll be showing the images of some of the photos you've taken in rally.
Yes.
What do you need? What do you need to tweak when for example, you're covering a rugby game as compared to following the WRC?
Well, your fundamentals have to be right. You know, the fundamentals have to be right, no matter what sport or what genre you're covering, whether you're a wedding photographer or a rugby photographer, sports photographer, your fundamentals have to be right. But now when it comes to motorsport, you start to learn the sport, appreciate a little bit more about what would make a good picture in this sport. And yeah, we're blessed in Kenya, actually, that we have so many world-class events happening here, including the World Rally Championship, just 2 hours out of Nairobi. You can go and take photos and learn and see the best drivers in the world. And I always encourage my colleagues, if you can interact with and take photos of the best in their field, then go out and do it. Of course, athletics, and marathon, it's very hard to take good marathon photos. Surprisingly, you're like, these guys are just running. So what makes a good marathon photo?
Is it because of where you position yourself, or is it that you have to because getting even the action shot itself, it has to be a bit of a skill.
How do you get the emotion? How do you get the passion in this sport? How do you get the competitiveness? And I'm lucky I'm involved in local events. There's a Kakamega Forest Marathon, and been involved with that for 5-6 years. So going to Kakamega Forest and taking photos of a marathon in the forest year on year, it then builds up your skill and your know-how, so that when you're here at Stanchart Marathon, if you go to one of the World Marathon Majors, you already know what you're looking for, what type of shot you're looking for. That's in your style, but tells the story of that marathon.
Just to pick up from what you said, look, is there a sport that is a bit difficult to take photos? I think you've touched on that one briefly, marathons. Is there another sport that you have to have a certain level of skill? You need to be really attuned at that point?
I think because of the danger, motorsport. Motorsport is a very exciting sport, but it's also a very dangerous sport. And you have to be very careful and follow the rules and be very conversant of where you need to be and what you need to do, and to make sure you can capture the images, but in a way that's safe. But any new sport is a difficult sport to do. I remember the first time I went to shoot volleyball at Nyayo Stadium. It took me like 2 or 3 days before I started getting pictures that I say, okay, I can now share these with people.
What's challenging about it?
Because it's a brand new sport. You're like, where should I sit? Where should I stand? What makes, where are the emotions in this sport? Where do you get that type of image that people would want to look at and that you'd be proud of, So any new sport that you tackle, you're gonna have to be humble. You're starting from the bottom and build your way up with expertise so that you know how to shoot it.
You've done World Rally Championships, you've done the Rugby World Cup. Do you have something that's on your mountaintop? Do you have your ultimate goal? Of course, you're the Rugby World Cup.
Yes.
But do you have an event where you're thinking, I want to go here? And let me remind you, you told me slightly earlier, you both go in at times, part of you is as a fan, then the other part of you is as a professional photographer. So do you have that one event where you're feeling, I'd like to go here? This is what I'd like to be at. This is my mountaintop.
Yeah, now, if you had asked me a few months ago, I've told you, let's go to the Rugby World Cup finals. Yeah? Actually, for me, the ultimate for me would be to shoot Kenya at a Rugby World Cup.
You've done it for the sevens, though.
Yeah, for the sevens. But if we get to the 15s, we're knocking on that door, and very soon, I think in Australia we'll be there. We break through that door, and to shoot your own country, to hear your own anthem in those stadiums and shoot your own country at the Rugby World Cup would be amazing. In terms of other sports, the hardest accreditation to get in sports is the Formula One, pitch side. Yeah, so being able to shoot a Formula One race, so that will test your technical skills to the limits. There's the excitement, adrenaline of the race. So you have these two things battling where you're watching a sports duel, but you have to remember all your technical skills in order to capture them.
Again, allow me to ask this question.
Sure.
You love photography, you are a sports buff, you like your sports. What's your gain? Like at the end of it all, is it the ability to take pictures at that level? Is it to also be there as part fan, part photographer? What's your net gain? What's the word they use in business?
End game.
End game, end goal, cost benefit analysis, I don't know. You get what I'm asking.
One thing about photography, unlike most other creative arts, is that it's quite easy to measure progress. You can see whether you're improving or not. You look at your photos from 3 years ago compared to today, you can see whether you're improving or not. Same with, playing a musical instrument or painting, etc. So, my end goal is to keep improving, but we want to get to a stage where in Kenya that people can make a living out of this. So we already know we have got a good product. We already know that we have got very good photographers in the country. So now things such as the IP laws, so people can protect their images. Things such as, creating our own agency so that we can tell our stories. There's so many Kenyan sports stories that happen every weekend, every week in this country that, people need to hear about, Kenyans need to hear about. And it weren't going to be the only ones that will tell those stories. So getting to that stage where, you guys you're overwhelmed with local stories, local sports stories, exciting, interesting local sports stories, compared with good images, good photos, good videos, then we'll say we're changing the world.
Fantastic, Daudi. Now let's take a look at the feedback regarding the question we'd asked you, and it's regarding the Rugby World Cup. We asked you a very, very simple question. We asked you, who will win the Rugby World Cup? That's the question we're asking you. We wanted to share sentiments on X and on our social media platforms. The previous comments were all New Zealand, and it seems it's the same case, Wakabi.
Yes, James Agrio-Biero says New Zealand, so that's New Zealand 5. And people are very straightforward. Daniel Mwasia Mwandi says Kenya. I'm not quite sure what Rugby World Cup is talking about.
Maybe. 2030, is it 2030?
No, 2027.
No, after, because there's 2027 and then there's
2031.
2031, yeah.
Yes. So Daniel Mwasia, Alfred says what? Finals, New Zealand versus South Africa. Green and gold will take the day. Springboks, that's the first one that is supporting our fellow Africans. so far it's 5, 1, and 2. And
Another
then Yogo asks, why ask the obvious? The mighty Springboks will win, so that's 2. So they're catching up with England. Yogo, saying the defending champions. Well, James, same thing, Springboks. So that's 3. So that's 3 versus 5. It's getting closer now.
Yes.
And then South Africa or New Zealand. That one has sat on the fence proper. Yeah, Aditito Renata sat on the fence.
First one, I think was said the South Americans.
Interesting though. They had a very dramatic game versus the Welsh.
Yeah.
I like the way they just came back. They found a way back.
It'll be interesting if they reach the final, because it will mean that in the span of 2 years, they have reached the final.
Get to what final?
So no, I'm saying, look, the
versus
Pumas.
who?
Yes. No, I'm just saying, if they qualify, I'm just hypothetically.
Leave this.
It'll be 2 in the span of 1 year. There'll have been 2 finals.
I get you, but no way. Hey, you see what the All Blacks did to Ireland? Mistake-free, mistake-free rugby. They were down to 14 men for 20 minutes, and it didn't matter. They were so clinical. It was amazing.
William Bote says All Blacks. I believe that's one of our colleagues, one of our fellow scribes.
Yes, I see All Blacks.
All Blacks.
All of you, the All Blacks.
So that's the last one. That's the last one.
In fact, I'm surprised Daudi is wearing black. I thought he was going to say All Blacks. I'm happy he's wearing Springboks.
Now,
African.
Yes. Now, we've been talking about photography extensively, and as usual on the segment, this particular segment on the show is appreciating the talent that our colleagues taking photos are able to achieve sometimes. So this specific photo was taken by Chris Omolo, and it was during horse racing, Wakabi. Let's take a look at that one, and that is shot of the weekend. Let's take a look at it.
For once, I don't have to talk about the picture.
Yes, let's.
Because you've got an actual expert on photography.
I want to test his knowledge, because obviously he'll be able to gauge and see how certain things have been done. So I'm going to ask you, Daudi.
Yes.
What kind of camera do you think our colleague Chris Omolo used to take this specific photo?
Because it's Chris and he's a top professional, he'd probably have top equipment. But I'm sure there are other people there, especially because of the nature of this sport, that had equally expensive cameras. But he's been able to capture...
Let me say the lens then. The lens?
Yeah, the lens as well. The lens as well.
What do you think? What lens do you think he used for this one? The millimeter? I don't know anything about photography, so I'll be maybe saying the wrong things.
It's probably a bit of a longer lens. Because of the nature of the sport, you can't get too close to the horses. But it's not really about the lens. It's that he was able to capture the emotion of the race, the horse in flight, the jockey,
Have you ever covered horse racing?
Sorry?
Have you ever covered horse racing?
No, I haven't. I haven't covered horse racing, but maybe I should after seeing this.
So
the good thing about him is he's on the touchlines every weekend, building up his skills.
And it's multidisciplinary as well.
Yes.
So this one, Wakabi, it was okay. He said it's a Canon 1DX. Lens is 400 millimeters, 2.8 prime. I have no idea what I've said. The only thing I understood was 400 millimeters.
Yes. So this is a 200.
Okay.
So a 400 would be
slightly bigger.
Twice the length.
Okay.
But f.2, it's a slightly bigger lens. Yes.
Okay. So it was Jockey Michael Fundi who was guiding Okabi. This is very... Remember, there's the last time we were discussing about...
Blue Chapati.
So
that's the name of my horse.
That's the name of his horse, if he ever gets one. So now, Jockey Michael Fundi was guiding. Guess the name of the horse.
No, you can't do this.
The horse is called High Legislation.
High?
High Legislation.
High Legislation.
That's the name of the horse. And you're celebrating crossing the finish line in the 1,000 meters distance, the Alfa Romeo trophy that was held at the Ngong Racecourse. Wakabi. Blue Chapati. So let me try Daudi Were. Mr. Daudi.
Yes.
Because what I told Wakabi last time was I told him if he was to ever have a horse, his favorite color and favorite food. So in your case, if you ever have a horse, what would be the name of the horse?
Have to be like Black Ugali, right?
Black Ugali.
Yes.
That's not bad.
That would be a strong horse.
Let's move on to on the timeline what you've been saying regarding different sporting activities over the weekend. And the first one, Wakabi, is the revolving door at AFC Leopards, Wakabi.
Coach number 30.
I think coach number 30. Let's
he was
take a look.
here in 2020.
Yeah, so...
He's back. Tom is back in his town. Welcome back to AFC Leopards. Thomas Trusha with a picture there of the coach and AFC Leopards top brass led by Dr. Dan Shikanda, there, the chairman. Hopefully, he's here longer than his first stint. Hopefully, he can continue for longer.
Let's see if they can be able to salvage the kind of... Because they're not yet won so far in the season.
No.
Okay.
No.
They're on the wrong side of the table.
Yes, at the very bottom. Only 2 teams haven't won a game this season. Sofapaka and Ingwe.
Now, the next one is a very fascinating one. Now, there's a trend that's called the yearbook trend that has been online. And Wild Athletics plugged into it, so where they take photos and they juxtapose it to a certain period in time. So I love this, Wakabi.
Especially, I had to look at it twice.
That's Eliud Kipchoge. Of course, they did some...
Yes. And especially because there's been a time when there's been a lot of stories about Tupac. I had to look at it twice. I was like, hold on, what's going on here?
Nobody looks the part. Look at that other one. He looks the part. Just for clarity, that is not him. It's just they have tried. They did something.
So there was that one, especially him and Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price. Fantastic. Whoever came up with this idea, it's a really cool thing to do. It's a really cool idea to do it. And it wasn't just him. It was quite a number of them. If I'm not wrong, at the top is Sidney McLaughlin.
Yes.
I think it is. It's just a nice, different thing. Like, you're like, And I like the way the athletics are trying to become hip.
Yes.
Yeah, they're trying to become hip.
Back to the Rugby World Cup now. This is just a special moment. Of course, this was shared by the New Zealand official social media pages. They were just appreciating a legend after that game. It just shows you the spirit of the sport. Johnny Sexton, of course, it was his swan song this World Cup. But the All Blacks just appreciated him.
Yep, the TT is young. He could have retired after 2019. He said, I'm going to come back because we have this hex of never going past the quarterfinals. They had a wonderful 4 years in which they became the top nation in rugby, in world rugby, especially in the 15s. And then this happened. To be fair, he was just as nervous as the rest of his team. It was a really good game as well. We've spoken about the good games on Sunday. It was a very, very, very good game on Saturday night. But in the end, I think the class of the All Blacks and a bit of the nervousness and that mental block of never going beyond the quarterfinals means that Sexton lives never having gone beyond the quarterfinals. Now let's shift gears, still staying with rugby, but this one just, I won't say much. Just have a look at what happened in this particular one. It's a tweet that was shared by WX5. It's a tournament that's happening for women's rugby just to grow the game. But Okabi, watch this video.
The inside, it's Raleigh. Raleigh beats another. Libby Janssen van Rensburg just put the fire lighter in the bonfire. And saw flames. Did Chloe Raleigh.
Oh, stops.
Nothing funny about it.
When I saw it, I remembered Oscar Uma and Sonny Bill Williams.
Sonny Bill Williams.
Yes. When I saw it, I was like, what can I compare that hit with?
Yes.
Because that Oscar Uma thing is imprinted forever in our brains. Just the way he took on a guy who's an all-time great. But that lady there, you used rugby lingo, let me use football lingo. Alipatikana.
Alipatwa. It's called the Ukwana side mirrors. I'm sure that's the one you decided. But it's a speech. She woke up, I think she was okay, but I'm sure
the following morning it was
she was a bit sore.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at something else. The IOC made a decision, Okabi, on Monday. It's official. There will be 6 new disciplines, the 2028 games in Los Angeles.
Yes, very interesting that they have picked sports that are very popular in the US. Lacrosse. Softball. Baseball, if I'm not mistaken. They've got the other one, the version of NFL. Flag football,
yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think it's to create hype, and to create connection with the local people. It's the same way that I think break dancing is also there.
Right.
Break dancing is in 2028,
yes.
if I'm not mistaken. 2028 or Paris, I'm not sure, one of them. So it's the same thing.
It's in Paris.
Yeah, it's to try and connect with the younger audience, the younger generation, Gen Z, so to speak. You saw the climbing. It's called mountain, what was it called? The rock climbing. You saw the, what is it called? The thing where you slide up and
skateboarding.
Skateboarding,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. You see now, and kayaking. And they're including sports that are attracting, surfing.
Yeah.
Is it surfing?
Yes.
Yes, so they're including sports that are for a younger
but it's
generation.
very debatable because I don't know what you think about this, the inclusion of those specific sports.
The new ones that have been included?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the most exciting for me is cricket, T20, because it brings in a whole new demographic into
especially
into the
India.
Olympics. You know, you saw how important rugby sevens was for Fiji and them being able to win an Olympic medal. So now when you bring in T20 cricket, yes, it helps.
Right. Finally, now we take a look at this next one, Wakabi, and it's an interesting one because let's watch it for yourself. You've seen the other one. That was the previous one was a rib tickler. Now, before, I think this one was, this is for the football one.
Yes.
There's another one I wanted us to run before. This one was Austrian club SK Kapfenberg. They were celebrating a win. But let's move on to the one for the Guinness World Records. Wakabi.
Yeah. First of all, just quick mention on that guy. Fantastic what he does. But I know this is the one you talk about.
Yes.
Let's just watch it before we say anything about it. Let's see what Were thinks.
In 3, 2, 1, stop.
So Wakabi, I don't know.
But why? Why would someone put a coconut on my head and I let them crack it or smash it or crash
Would you agree, Daudi, to be
Why?
done for that? To be part of a record? Because he did, I think, 42 coconut cracks in 1 minute.
But why?
I know even looking at the nunchuck skills.
Because one false move, it will knock you on your face or something.
Yeah, so it's I think it's one of those records where he's the only one who's attempted it, so probably that's why he has it.
But why? Like, you must have thought of every other thing, including cooking non-stop for 96 hours, 100 hours, and you decided, I want to crack coconuts on people's heads.
Yeah. With a nunchuck.
And you being a normal human being like me, you and I, we sit there and we say, yes,
there are so many
put it on my head, and then you just crash it. No. Let me stick with blue chapati. No.
And on that cracking note, that marks the end of SportOn. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate everyone, of course, who's involved in the show, behind the scenes and in front of you. Mr. Daudi Were, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Please forget your ball. Trust me, I will keep it for you.
We'll talk about it.
Bye for now.